We are going to talk about Chief Njiri wa Karanja from Murang'a, Kigumo, Murang'a. One thing I've learned about Chief Njiri wa Karanja is that in this world, especially Kenya, Kenyans have two sides of the coin. They have two sides of the coin. You can do something very good, 95%. Good, you pass 95 and fail 5%. But Kenyans will spend 95% of their time criticizing the 5% wrong that you did, but will spend 5% of the time praising you for the 95% of the time of the good thing you did. Another thing before we go to Chief Jiri wa Karanja is that Kenyans also have, especially on the political front, they have two scorecards. Two scorecards that if you are on their side of the political equation, they'll never comment anything bad about you. You look like a saint. You look like a prophet. You look like a wise person. But if you change to the other side of the political equation, you will be the equivalent of the devil, Lucifer himself. They'll never talk anything positive about you. Well, Njiru to me is the greatest example of where Kenyans have noticed a very, okay, I cannot say a very small thing, but I would say that Kenyans, if you look at the Kenyans' history, they always talk about the one thing that he did wrong. Very few people talk a lot of good things he did. Very few talk about that. They only talk of one single thing that he did wrong, forgetting about 6 or 7 or even 10 good things that he did. That one I've said. In Kenya's history, we are told that Njiri, son of Karanja, is the one who announced to the Mamau in the forest that Jomo Kenyatta had died in prison. We are also told that when he had Jomo's voice on the radio, on his radio, those days there were no TV. TV came. Jomo Kenyatta was released in 1961, August, and the first TV in Kenya was 1964. So the TVs had not come. So we are also told that when he had Jomo's voice on his radio, he thought that it was his radio that was bad and smashed it onto the wall. He said, how can my radio be saying Jomo has been released and is fine and I can hear his voice when all I know is that Jomo died in Kapenguria in prison. Nobody tells us that he was extremely rich. You know, those days, owning a bicycle was a great development, especially Africans. For an African to have a bicycle, I'm not even talking of a vehicle or even a motorcycle. For an African to have a bicycle, he would be considered very prominent. But Njiru had horses. He had horses. Nobody tells us that he was strict about education. If I'm not wrong, there is a Luo chief in those, is it Yala area, but somewhere in Siaya, Okang or something like that. He was so strict that he used to punish, I think he was used to punish parents. If your child does not go to school, he punishes you. So parents those days used to wonder, why should I take my kid to school when he can take care of my animals? If we have to remember Kibaki was taken to school because he was lazy and whatever, he could not take care of animals. And so he was taken there to, and later ended up as a lecturer at Makerere University. So those are the educational standards then. And we have Kango, the fellow, I don't know, but there is a Luo fellow in Siaya, whom even and a campus has been named after him, that he used to be very strict with education. Jiri was also very strict about education. Nobody talks about it. He made sure that both his children and the children in his jurisdiction went to school. Nobody tells us that he gave out his land to start a school, which today is called Njiri's High School. Nobody talks about that. And nobody tells us that his son, Kariuki Wanjiru, stepped down as an MP when Jomo Kenyatta left prison for him to be the MP in Kigumu. I'll emphasize on that by saying that when Kenyatta left, when Kenyatta was released from detention, he went to Gatundu. When he went to Gatundu, when he was talking in Gatundu, and he was recorded by the radio, Jiri, the name is Jiri. Jiri heard it over the radio and threw the radio on the wall, and it broke because to him he knew that Jomo Kenyatta was dead. But you see, at that very same time, his own son was an MP for Kigumu. His son was Kariuki Wanjiru. Njiri, not Njiru. Now, when Jomo Kenyatta left prison, there was a lot of meetings and a lot of things that were being done in preparation for independence. But Jomo Kenyatta would not participate in, it used to be called Legico before it called the National Assembly. There's no way Jomo Kenyatta would participate in the National Assembly, which was called then Legislative Assembly, Legislative Council, if he was not an MP. And imagine Kiambu, there were MPs, but somebody from Moranga, of all places, Moranga, and the son of the chief, who was whatever, is the one who stepped down for him. He stepped down. These things have been happening even to today. You find that we have had even instances where MP step down so that a prominent person can go to parliament. Nobody talks about that. They always talk about him, what he did during the emergency. He was a chief, a paramount chief, and he was very much pro-colonialism, colonialist. That is understandable. My own father was a police officer during the colonial time and whatever. And I've even said in several places, in several videos, that when we want to look for, let's say, Dedan Kimathi's grave, understand the time when Dedan Kimathi was hanged. He was considered a terrorist. He was considered a terrorist. So there's no way he would be given a state funeral or whatever. And you see, for the government to have that, the government stand is shared by civil servants. It is shared by civil servants. So it is wrong to castigate somebody who worked in the colonial government, because colonial government had to have civil servants. and he was that. And one thing I know is that he was a senior person, a paramount chief, and they convinced him. They convinced him. You see, the best way to, as let me talk as an NIS person, the best way to convince the other party is what we call turning operation. Turning operation. Turning operation is that the person who's going to deal with those people, you you convert that person. Because if that person goes and meets them and says, I've been told to tell you ABCD. So this is somebody who would take his finger, place it on the ground, and then lick the finger and then show the finger in the sky, say, Haki ya Mungu. So they called him and convinced him. They called him and convinced him that Kenyatta was dead. And then when they convinced him and they told him what to say. They told him what to say, and he crammed that. And then they recorded they recorded the tape. Now, when they recorded the tape, they did not take him to on the plane. I don't know, but my guess is that you see on the plane, if you are not used to the plane, this height may disturb you. And again, when you are talking or live, do you call it live? When you are talking live, you tend to be emotional or anything or whatever. But uh, pre-recording, there is editing, there is making sure he has covered everything they want to do. So they would record that. I hope you understand that. They would record that and place the on the audio tape inside the plane. And the plane used to have large loudspeakers. So when the plane was overflying Aberdares and Mount Kenya forests, they would hear Nenye Shifo, Nenye Shifo, Jirwa Karanja, Drauga. That is their language. It is me, Chief Njiri Karanja, and I'm telling you that the Jomo Kenyatta you are fighting over is dead. He has already died, and he died in Kapenguria or Lodwa. So come out of the forest, because the person whom you are fighting for is dead. Now there is a lot of people who, although Kenyatta was a turncoat or whatever, but let us go into the mind of the Mau Mau fighters in the forest. The government divided them into three. First of all, they made sure that Kimathi and Madenge were not on good terms. And then there was also a third angle, a third dimension of those who are fighting because of Jomo Kenyatta. There is a good number of Mau people who just wanted to fight to have Kenyatta released from jail. That there is a good percentage that was there. So he went around saying that Jomo, I told you about or turning operation. Convince him first. So before they would switch on the microphone, they had made sure that he himself was convinced that Jomo Kenyatta is dead. That is why he was saying, the Jomo Kenyatta you are fighting over died while in prison. So why should you fight when the person you are fighting over is dead? He did that. Uh, he did that, so convinced that Kenyatta was in jail. And then when Kenyatta came out, as I've said, he was shocked to hear the voice of Jomo Kenyatta. And in his mentality, he believed that there is something wrong with my radio. Other radios, I'm sure they are not announcing that. Mirimo ya andu aria makuite tene yahota gucokera o haria we uri. What I've just said is that we have African beliefs that when somebody has died, his ghost can come to you. So Chief Njiri believed that the ghost of Jomo Kenyatta had entered into his radio, and he took his radio and um, hit it on the wall. Uh, he hit and it broke into several times. That is something he did. But what people forget is a lot of good things he and his family did. Just as I finish, let me just repeat those good things that he did. That first, just like Chief Kango, I hope that is the real name of Yala, who used to be very strict about education. Chief Njiri was very strict about education. People don't talk about that. Chief Njiri, he had a lot of wives. Is it 40? But anyway, 40 may be exaggerated because we even had Sudi Namachanja, the father of Cardinal Tunga. He had so many wives that he didn't know how many they were. So Njiro had a lot of wives, and he had a lot of children, and he had a big family. He had a lot of properties. As I said, he even had horses at the time when whatever. I think he also had a car. He also had a car, and he was really guarded by the colonialists because Mau Mau would attack him and kill him the way they were killing other chiefs. In his home, he had a very large Union Jack. Now, for some of us like me who do not know what a Union Jack is, Union Jack is the national flag of United Kingdom. So this is the purpose of this video, was to say yes, he betrayed Jomo Kenyatta. Not he betrayed Jomo Kenyatta, but he did a lot of good things, including opening a school in his name, including opening a school in his name, taking people to school, uh, and so on and so forth. But we tend only to look at two bad things he did. We tend to look at the two bad things, which is one, his loyalty. His loyalty. It was more than that of an average civil servant. He was over loyal to the colonialist. To an extent, he had a very large flag there. And the other thing was the participation he did by recording those things that I was saying. The Jomo Kenyatta, you are dying for whatever. He died in the prison. So come out, go back to your villages and start farming just like any other peasant. Thank you for watching this video.